All right, welcome to Communication Skills for Better Relationships. This is our monthly live workshop called Ask Coach G Live, where I offer my expertise for free to give you practical tools to solve what's a presenting problem or a pain point for you. This happens typically on the first Saturday of every month. I'm really glad that you could join us and you are in for an exciting time. My name is gbemi, or Coach G, as my clients like to call me. I'm a psychotherapist, dually licensed. I'm both a licensed professional counselor and licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also board certified in applied behavior analysis, and I'm a nationally certified counselor in the United States. I have a burning desire to fill the gap that has been created by limited access to mental and emotional health resources. I'm unable to be everyone's therapist, but I have expertise that I'm happy to share. I like to help, I want to help, because I know that the difference that knowledge and information can make in our lives is significant, because we don't know what we don't know. And when we learn it, we know it, and then our lives become better. It is my joy and my desire to fill that gap. And I do it in several ways. I do one-on-one sessions in my therapy and coaching practice. And for a lot of people, therapy and coaching is priced out of what they can afford. But does that mean that they don't deserve to get help and support? I think not. So I do the bit that I can. I offer courses, I offer group workshops, I offer trainings, I provide employee assistance programs to companies who are trying to help their teams as well. I do a lot of work. However, I want my expertise to be available to people at multiple levels, including people who may not be able to pay to access it. So that is why I do this work, because you deserve help and support. And I genuinely believe that you should get it. It's also why the virtual village exists, so that you can have access to resources as well. It is a privilege that you allow me to support you on your journey, and I do not take that for granted. Thank you. So our objectives for today, very clear. We're going to talk about the presenting problem that leads to frustration of talking, speaking, and not getting heard. We're going to explore why that is a problem and why the problem continues to persist. Then we're going to go on to talk about the implications, the consequences of the problem. Then we're going to go to solutions, which is where I want to spend the biggest chunk of my time, which is, okay, now we know the problem. Now we know how it affects us. What do we do? And it is my goal that you will leave here today with practical, immediately actionable tips that you can start to use now. And when I say now, as of today, right? So that you can have better outcomes with the frustration that comes with just not knowing how to handle what happens to be a very common problem. All right. So, did I skip a page? Okay, I think I did. So I'm back. All right. Yeah. So immediately actionable steps, and then we're going to talk about navigating complex situations. So and this is the place where I'm asking you to please offer up your answers, because that will help me serve you better, right? So talking and not getting heard. Would you say that this is a situation that you have faced personally in your life? You can use the reaction buttons. A thumbs up. I have the chat open in a separate window. I'm tracking it. Yeah. Let's see how common it is, or if it's only a handful of us. Yeah, I see all those yeses. Yeah, a lot of the time. Yes, definitely. Right. You talk, but you do not feel like you are getting heard, right? And I'm curious, why this is the case. Is it us? Is it that we're not talking correctly or properly? Or is it them? Is it that they need better listening skills? What would you say? What would you say it is? Is it them? Or is it maybe a combination of all of us? Or all of the factors? What would you say it is? What do you think? I see the comments. It's not you, it's me. Well, a combination of both, right? Sometimes I feel like the person isn't listening, a combination of all of us. And these are my answers. Communication is hard. It's just as simple as that. It's a struggle because communication is hard. sure where we got the idea that communication is supposed to be seamless and we're just supposed to know how to do it. But it is hard, and it's made hard by several factors. Some of them being the fact that there's a difference between what is heard and what is said. So the idea that we have spoken, we have said something, and therefore that means that the other party has received what we intended to convey. We just assume that because we use the vehicle of words, that picture should have been painted in their mind. So this is the analogy that I use in my practice with clients. If you have an idea in your mind that you're trying to convey, right? It's a process of several steps. First of all, you have your idea, and then you use a vehicle, sometimes maybe body language or maybe a look, right? Or words. You are trying to send that idea to the other party, right? That's the next step, send the idea. The next step is that the person receives the idea, right? Final step, they paint a picture in their minds of what you had in your mind that you were trying to convey. Question, does the picture in your mind or in their mind always translate exactly to yours or theirs? What do you guys think? Yeah, I'm liking the answers. No, the picture doesn't translate exactly. And the reason is because that's how it's supposed to be. That the idea that you have in your mind will automatically translate. The picture that you have painted will automatically translate to the picture in the person's mind is what I'm wondering, where did we get the idea from? And it leaves us frustrated, right? Also, people have different communication styles, right? Some people are more overt in the way they speak and address things. Some people not so much. Some people expect you to be able to read their mood and to be able to read their body language. Sometimes tone can be different. Then there's also the very real problem of the gap between intent and impact, right? So when you say something, you may have meant to say X, but the person hears something else, right? And then that leaves them feeling all types of ways. There's also the issue of subjective interpretations, right? So for example, if I offered you something with my left hand, right? How might you feel about that? Like I offered you a drink and I used my left hand. Is there a possibility that people have different subjective interpretations of what it means to offer something to someone using their left hand, which is often cultural? What do you guys think? Is that a thing that you may have noticed? Is that something that you have observed? Is that something that you're familiar with per cultural practices? Right, I see the different answers in the chat. Thank you guys for responding. Somebody says I could care less. Another person says that's not a big deal. Someone else says that they're indifferent. Somebody says it's culturally unacceptable, right? Right? I like this comment. Culturally, yes, it might be a problem, but nobody has refused money when I used my left hand, right? So even culture has exceptions, doesn't it, right? Some people are indifferent, some people don't care, but that people whose parents care, and perhaps older people of a certain generation of different cultures, right? And it might have meant something to you in the past, but maybe it doesn't mean anything to you now. Like this one, this exact scenario happened to me this week and they had an issue with it, right? And that's an example of what it can be like, because now you have subjective interpretations and somebody's upset or mad at you for something that you tried to communicate and that you didn't have an idea that it mattered to them. I've had somebody say, don't say y'all to me. Who is y'all? And I'm saying it means you all, right? Or have you ever tried to talk to maybe like an older parent, or maybe even me that I'm speaking? I remember one time my child was saying you guys, and I was like, who is your guys? I'm not among your guys. Hello, right? So those are some of the examples where, culturally per situation. So you're going to be conveying something and the other person is going to interpret it as disrespect. And so there will be problems. That's not avoidable. I see that comment. She said, I once said you guys to my mom. She was so annoyed. Yeah, because is she among your guys? Please go and look for your guys, in school or wherever they are. Also, there's a very real problem of instinctive reactions. And I wish I could delve into that, but we don't have enough time. You can benefit from watching the video that we have in the library in Virtual Village and on YouTube. It's called Upstairs Brain and Downstairs Brain. It explains what's going on in our brains when we feel some type of way about things that happen. And if the team can help me put the link in the chat so people can save it and find it easier, you will learn what happens inside your brain with the instinctive reactions that then make the instinctive reactions make listening to other people when we are activated almost impossible. Also, active listening is a learned skill. It's like learning to drive or learning to read and write. The idea that we should just know it instinctively is what I'm curious about challenging, because if we haven't learned to listen or learned to communicate, why do we think that we would ultimately just be able to do so or know how to do so, right? So let's move on. Let's talk about the impact, or what is the content of the feelings of frustration we feel, or our skills deficit in being able to communicate. So let's talk about how you feel when you are unheard, right? How does being unheard make you feel? I'm sure you've experienced that before. I know I have. Do you want to tell me some of the feelings that have come up for you at times when you felt that you were talking and someone wasn't listening? Maybe you can think of a scenario, right? Yeah, frustrated. That comes up for me too. Yeah, frustrated, annoyed, right? Yeah, okay, frustrated is showing up again. Angry, right? Disappointed. Yeah. Oh, defensive. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, because your point is not getting, taken. There's no point continuing the conversation. I just shut down. Frustrated, undervalued. Yes, that's a big one. Right. Another one that comes up for me is a feeling of despair, because I'm like, if we have reached this stage and we are not communicating again, maybe, because what else do I want to do? Right? I don't know if you guys can relate to that one. It comes up a lot, especially with my children, because I'm like, I've been doing this thing for more, how many years now? At this point, I really don't, because I don't know how else, because in what other words do you use to say, can you close my door when you are leaving my room? As in, is it a lack of communication that makes it? Or like, if you use my belongings, can you put it back exactly where you met it? Like, then I just get really frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I just quit, right? Yeah, I see that comment. Yes, I just give up. And yeah, you can relate, right? Because you're just like, you know what? I'm over it. So it does, impact our feelings. And then what does that do for us in real life? And how does that affect us in other ways? Disconnection. Because if you guys aren't communicating what's going on, right? So there's disconnection, there's unresolved conflict, because how do you resolve conflict without, talking about it? Then it means that your needs are not met. So you're there with unmet needs, which then further leads to relational dissatisfaction. Can you see how it just continues? And then it can also lead to dysfunction, because you go from not being able to resolve conflict, people getting riled up. I see the comment where I feel like I'm not speaking clearly, so I raise my voice. So when one person raises their voice, the next person raises their voice as well. Could that possibly lead to a pattern of dysfunction? So you can imagine a whole family unit. So there's father, mother, child, maybe uncle or auntie or relative that's living with them, and people don't feel heard, so they're resorting to unhelpful behaviors, we then have an established pattern of dysfunction, just because, of course, several other factors, but we don't know how to get heard, and it just, I wouldn't even say it trickles down. It just gets worse, right? And so it can lead to dysfunction. The other part that we also don't often think about is that not being able to communicate leads to missed opportunities. Because imagine the life that you could have built if you were able to speak and be heard, and the people you love and care about could speak to you and get heard as well, and you could foster connection. Imagine what a great life that could have been, right? And just because we have this skill deficit, all of that is a possibility that will never happen. I'm sure that people in this session can relate to having had a friendship breakdown because y'all just couldn't get through to each other. And it was great. It was a great friendship. Like you guys were, you got along or something, but something happened and there was a breakdown in communication and the friendship fell apart. So right now, just not having the skill to communicate has led to a loss of what could have been. And that's a real loss. Maybe we can't measure it in material, tangible terms, but think of families that are falling apart just because people couldn't communicate or they couldn't connect. Generations. Their families, we all, I'm sure, like I usually tell my clients, dysfunction in families is not about, why is your own family dysfunctional? It is about, this is the version of dysfunction that we're working in mind. Reason, we're human, we're flawed, we're happening to other people and people are happening to us, right? So imagine the broken family relationships. Does anybody have cousins that they don't talk to because both get along and couldn't communicate? Is that something anyone here can relate to? I see that in the chat. Thank you guys for being so honest, right? Imagine if our parents had communication skills to resolve the conflict. Imagine the kind of relationships that we could have had. I know it might feel like we're leaning heavy into the shoulda, woulda, coulda. However, those are missed opportunities for connection. The jobs that we could have had because we knew how to communicate, right? The opportunities that we may have missed and the things that could have happened for us if only we had the skill. So I encourage you to think about you learning the skill, not just about, I didn't know it or whatever, but what may I have lost because I didn't? And what do I stand to gain if I do, right? Think about it like that. There's also the real issue of material losses, because people have lost jobs just because they couldn't communicate correctly, right? Or they didn't know how to handle the lack of communication. Like lost money, right? Lost homes, lost material, tangible things as well. Very real cost, right? Then there's also the impact on our physical and mental health, because the stress and the strife, the anxiety. Have you ever been in the same physical location as somebody you care about and there was tension that couldn't be resolved? Or is it just me? Walking on eggshells, trying to figure out how not to piss each other off or even just say what is on your mind without offending them. Tension a knife could cut. Thank you, right? I'm glad you guys, I really appreciate your honesty, because it's not just me, right? That impacts your physical and mental health, guys. It does, right? Because you are there and there's tension and strife. You can't breathe. You can't breathe in well even, right? Yeah. Before I go and say something and everywhere will explode just because I'm unable to communicate how I feel, right? The anxiety, the tension, the stress, it impacts our physical and mental health, because when you should be thriving and now like literally in deficit, right? I like this comment, tension choke, for real, right? So this isn't just about, well, if I can't communicate, then they can't listen, they should get lost. It's a real issue of this thing is impacting our lives. In fact, let me tread on this very tricky part. I want you to imagine your relationship with your parents, or if you're like me, you don't have parents anymore, sorry to us. I want you to imagine your relationship with your parents, right? This one, I'm not going to ask you to leave a comment in the chat. I want you to just reflect on it and think about it so we don't cast ourselves, okay? Imagine your relationship with your parents, how different it would be if you could speak to them in a way that you felt like they heard you and they connected with you, and that they also perhaps felt heard and connected. And I want you to leave in the chat a yes or a no if you think it will significantly change the trajectory of your life. Think about that and just leave a yes or a no in the comments. Yeah, I see the first yes. It is literally the reality of our lives that we are all dealing at some level with issues that communication may have solved, right? So my hope is that in this session or at the end of this session, we'll have practical, actionable tools that we can use. And I want you to come with me. I included this quote from John Gottman: communication difficulties are reported as the most common cause of relationship deterioration. And that's statistical data that's backed up by research. So if you feel like this is a situation that you're in, I encourage you to realize that you're not alone. We can learn and we will. So let's go straight to solutions, because I want to give you immediately actionable steps that you can use. And the first question that I have is that, is communication a magic fix? What do you think? Does communication magically solve everything? And I say this knowing I have just painted a picture of where our lives would be better if we just knew how to communicate, right? Yeah, I see the no's and I agree. Well, the answer is no, because, and I want you to quote me on this, communication is overrated. And I think it's ironic me saying this as a therapist and as somebody who has put together a session trying to teach people how to communicate. Communication is overrated. And I'll tell you why. It is because we treat communication as a magic wand. Often this is how it goes. I'm having this problem with this person that maybe forgot to return a book that they promised that they were going to return, and I'm feeling frustrated about it. So I am going to have a talk with them about how what they did made me feel. And then after you had the talk with them, what happened? They forgot your book next time. And here we are feeling frustrated because we used communication as a tool and it didn't fix the problem. Is it because communication is not a good tool? The answer is no, because communication is a vehicle, that a way of you conveying how you feel or what you think. Communication doesn't magically end all problems, because the thinking that says, well, when I talk to them, the problem will go away, suggests that the reason the problem exists is because you haven't talked to them. So communication is very helpful. However, communication is not a magic fix. Communication is a vehicle. What do you guys think about that? Okay, I see one, I agree. Right, makes sense. Right. So I want you to think of communication not as a magic wand, but as a tool, right? So what's the common belief that talking to somebody about a problem should make it go away? What's that based on, right? And what happens when we don't get the outcome? Does that mean that communication has failed? So that's something to think about when we're building the skills that we need for communication. That is why there's this very, very important type of communication that I really want to teach you about. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to teach all of it in this session. You can learn more about it when we do the live workshop, where we will do the role plays and step-by-step things. But let me explain what collaborative communication is to you. I'll give you some examples and I will teach you practically, and we'll do role plays for one of those life skills, okay? So what's collaborative communication? It is an approach to communication that emphasizes mutual understanding, respect, and cooperation, hence collaborative, right? So you guys have shared goals and you have a shared understanding of how to achieve them. So you use active listening, open-mindedness, and empathy, right? Long term, it fosters trust and it promotes positive relationships, and that improves mental and emotional health outcomes, right? Short term, you are able to achieve your goals because you are collaborating, right? To be clear, collaborative communication is not a naturally occurring skill. It is a learned skill, right? So I want you to think of collaborative communication as perhaps learning how to drive, right? You can learn and you can master a specific set of skills that can help improve your outcomes because you know what to do, right? So that's collaborative communication, and we're going to deep dive into the active listening part of it, and this is where I want to spend a little more time. It is often the case that when we talk about learning how to communicate, the idea that often comes into people's minds is that we're going to learn how to tell people what to do so they can do it and we can get the outcome that we want. What's the problem with that type of thinking? The idea that communication is a way of getting good at telling other people what to do so that they can do it and stop pissing us off, right? Oh, I like the answers in the chat. You can't control other people's behaviors, right? It doesn't account for the other person's needs or agencies. Thank you. These are very great answers, right? So when I say come to a collaborative communication class, is it possible that people thought in their minds that I'm going to go to that class so that she can teach me how to talk to people so that they will listen to me and do what I say? If you thought like that, give me a show of hand. That you wanted to come here to come and learn how to tell people, right? I'm sure if I ask a parent here, they would say, well, my children don't listen. Coach G, I get that request a lot. Coach G, come and teach me how to talk to this children so that you can listen to me, right? Oh, I like this comment. We assume they even want to learn in the first place because it keeps us in control, right? You can only influence others' behavior, but you cannot control it. So when I say that I want to teach you about collaborative communication, what's the most important part about collaborative communication that I want to teach you? It is active listening. I like this quote from Fran Lebowitz. The opposite of talking isn't listening. The opposite of talking is waiting. The opposite of talking isn't listening. The opposite of talking is waiting. Often it is the case that when we're engaging in conversation, we are waiting for the person to finish talking so that we can speak, right? The thing that we should be doing when they are talking is listening, which is waiting. No, I said that wrong. What we should be doing when they are talking is waiting, because the next step, because listening is not a passive activity. Listening is active, right? So I'll take that again. The opposite of talking isn't listening. The opposite of talking is waiting, which means that when a person is speaking to us, waiting is passive, listening is active, right? So let's explore active listening a little. Listening and responding in a way that improves mutual understanding, right? Listening to understand, not only to respond. Again, it's not instinctive. In fact, it's counterintuitive. However, it builds relationships that enrich your life. So here's how I want you to think about it. If you are looking to enrich your life, the goals that you will choose will be different from if you were looking to win an argument. I want you to sit with that for a little bit. If your end goal is to enrich your life and have better relationships, the way that you are going to respond will be different. Think about that. Because it is often the case that we want our relationships to be better, right? And if you're here, it is even proof positive that you want more and better for yourself. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to be better, right? So your desire to be better, very legitimate, very genuine, right? However, if you respond the way, or if you react the way your brain tells you to react each time, based off of how you feel, it is highly unlikely that you will get the type of relationships and quality of life that you want. And not because you are doing something wrong, but because that's how the brain works. I'll summarize. Our brain's job is to keep us safe. It is not our brain's primary responsibility to make us happy. So what happens when your brain senses data is that your brain immediately kicks in the amygdala hijack that, if you're familiar with my work, you've heard me talk about, or you can find it on our YouTube channel. This is the hand model of the brain. This is your upstairs brain, the cortical region. Everything below this we call subcortical, right? So your amygdala, your limbic system, this is the reptilian brain, which is the basic functions. It's where our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses live, right? So if your brain looks like this, immediately your brain senses an attack. Your amygdala, which is the security guard of your brain, immediately activates. And once it activates, it takes your upstairs brain offline, and you are now fully in downstairs brain reacting to a perceived attack. So that is why somebody will say something to you and say, look at this one. What's wrong with you? And immediately the brain goes offline. Or maybe a child says something to you that you perceive as disrespect. As soon as you perceive the disrespect, your upstairs brain has gone offline. You are now in attack mode. To be clear, it's not something that you're trying to do, or it's not that you're a bad person for doing it. It is automatic. Your sympathetic nervous system activates your amygdala. Immediately, your brain is doing what it needs to do to keep you safe, right? So reactionary responses when we feel attacked are instinctive. One of those reactionary responses as it relates to communication is defensiveness. So you're in a conversation with somebody you care about, and they say, I heard what you did yesterday when you just left my car, by the road instead of parking it into the compound. It is highly likely that when they say that, actually, you know what, let me ask you guys, don't let me assume. If somebody came to you and say, I hate what you do because it's as if you don't even care. I just came back and I found my car parked on the road. When you came to pick up the car, when you said that you wanted to run an errand, did you meet it on the road? You now parked my car on the road. You just act so careless every time, and it's not your fault. It's because I loaned you my car. Please, what are some feelings that might come up for you if someone said that to you? Anger, right? Sadness. Okay. I might feel misunderstood. Yeah. I might feel hurt. Okay. I know I might feel disrespected. Yeah, I like that, because I'm thinking to myself that, because I borrowed your car, I'm very sorry, sir. It will never happen again. It's me borrowing your car, because it's because I borrowed your car that you can talk to me like this, right? Yeah, I see that. Oh, yeah, I'm never going to borrow their car. Irritation. I might feel confused. I might feel embarrassed. Yeah, I might feel apathetic. Yeah, and I might blame you, right? All very legitimate automatic reactions that are happening from our downstairs brain. And what immediately happens is that our upstairs brain goes offline and we're in downstairs brain. Now, the thing about upstairs brain is this is our thinking brain. This is executive functioning, planning, delayed gratification. That's where all of that lives. When it goes offline, we're here. And it is highly likely that the next response that comes from us is a reactionary self-protective response, right? So it's highly likely that if we feel attacked, we might attack back. That's the fight response. Or maybe we might just lock up. That's the freeze response, right? Or maybe we might just avoid them and just never speak to them again. That's the fight response, right? Those are automatic responses in our downstairs brain, right? And I'm going to teach you the hack for how to respond. I see that comment, me, I'll just start crying, right? Very legitimate, because you're just like, what did I do? Or what did I, as in what is this that big of a deal? Because when we feel attacked, our brain is going to receive, the signal, and our body is going to react, right? But the good thing is that you met with me, because after now, you will have an idea how to respond in a way that increases the likelihood that you understood, right? Which will promote the type of relationship that you want and which will enrich your life, right? To be clear, and let's establish this, it is often the case when we talk about communication on how we should respond to other people, that we frame it from the point of view of keeping the peace or being the better person. That is not what active listening is about. Active listening is about being able to choose a response that serves your end goal, even though you do feel some type of way about that choice, right? So which means that if you then choose a calm response, it is because that's the response that serves your end goal. If you choose a more aggressive response, I really do hope that it's a response that serves your end goal, because when you're in downstairs brain, all you're thinking about is self-protection, right? But being able to bring your upstairs brain back online helps you choose a response that serves your end goal, right? I'll take that question. The thing about active listening not being about being the better person. All right. I'm going to say this again. So let us be clear. When we talk about active listening, we are speaking about it from the point of view that choosing a more helpful response helps to serve your end goal. We are not speaking from a point of view of, oh, just be the bigger person and be nice and kind. That's not the point, because that just takes away responsibility for appropriate behavior from the other party and might require you to put up with harm. We're saying when you use collaborative communication, you choose the helpful response that serves your own end goal. So if your goal is a better relationship and an enriched life, how you respond when you feel, even when you feel attacked, will be informed by the type of relationship that you're trying to have, not by your downstairs brain attacked. Because yes, your downstairs brain will become active when you feel attacked. This part is an automatic response because of your sympathetic nervous system. It's an instinctive response. You don't control it. Your brain does it by itself. So you are going to feel attacked. However, you can then learn the skill of bringing your upstairs brain back online and choosing a helpful response. When you choose a helpful response, it is because that response helps you get to your own goal of a better relationship and an enriched life. It is not a, don't do anything, just leave them, you know that's how they are. It is not a passive situation that encourages abusive behavior. Are we clear? You are choosing a response that leads to the type of life and relationship that you want. I'll give you an example. If my child speaks to me in a way that I find disrespectful, do you think that I'm going to feel disrespected? I'll take that again. Oh, and you're welcome. Okay, if my child speaks to me in a way that I consider disrespectful, is it normal that I will feel disrespected? Thank you for the answers in the chat. The answer is yes. When I feel disrespected, as I previously explained, my upstairs brain is going to flip. My amygdala is going to be hijacked by the feelings of disrespect and perhaps anger, and I will be in downstairs brain. The instinctive reaction that comes to me will be to be disrespectful back to that child, which is, let's say the child raised their voice at me. It is highly likely that my instinctive response will be to raise my own voice or to use my power as a way of controlling that child. That is instinctive. And there's nothing wrong with that happening because it's outside of my control, right? It is the impulse. What I'm teaching you now is that the outcome I want, which is to raise a respectful child by modeling what respect looks like, right? Which is to have a thriving, healthy relationship with my child, one that makes me deserving of respect, not demanding of it. The goal that I have, which is to show up in the world as a person who is emotionally competent and can regulate their emotions, is what will inform my response. So should I teach you guys the response I would give if my child was disrespectful to me? Would you like to hear that? It will be that, yes, I am in downstairs brain, feeling disrespected and agitated. I will take a deep breath, which sends oxygen to my brain. I will bring my upstairs brain back online. And because I've had a ton of practice doing this, I will look at them, bring my voice a decibel down and see, I'm not sure why you thought it was okay to speak to me like that. We don't do that here. What I have done is that I have chosen a more helpful response. I have checked the behavior and I have taken control of that situation. If I was in downstairs brain, I would be dysregulated and be popping off at my child. What's the problem with that? That child met me here. I gave birth to them as an adult. I wiped their butt. That is an apprentice human being who is learning from me how to do this adulting thing. If my child behaves disrespectfully and I react with disrespect, justifying my behavior by the child's behavior, I have just modeled to my child that when you feel disrespected, you respond with disrespect. Is it a surprise to me that when my child is disrespected, they also respond with disrespect? If at this my big age, it is impossible for me to control myself when I feel disrespected, how come I expect my child to be able to do so? Because I am literally saying that when you feel disrespected, any behavior is justified. As an adult whose responsibility it is to model appropriate responding to my child has just given me an opportunity on a platter of gold to show them what to do when they feel disrespected. And the answer is to self-regulate, bring the upstairs brain back online, and respond in a way that guarantees or reduces the likelihood of that behavior occurring again. So it will be the last time that my child will have the opportunity to disrespect me like that. However, do I have to be disrespectful in my response? What do you guys think? I'm really curious because this part, when I talk about it, parents are like, you are saying I should be speaking English when my child is being disrespectful. I'm saying that if you want your child to be able to respond respectfully, even when they feel disrespected, the second they disrespected you was your perfect opportunity to show them that, because your child feels disrespected. Your child is probably responding with disrespect because they feel disrespect, and they are choosing the response they know because of their skill level, which is to react with disrespect, which was probably modeled to you as an adult, because the way you respond to disrespect is to escalate with more disrespect, and your child is copying you. However, here we are, expecting the child to be able to control themselves when they feel disrespected, when we cannot control ourselves. All right, it looks like we're going to have to do a parenting class because we have lots of parenting examples. I recommend that this question that you ask, that you go and put it in the virtual village, in the village square, and I will do a personal response video for you. I would really like to do this one for you. So go ahead and ask it there, and I'll take it, because we have to keep it moving. We have about 25 minutes to go. So the point I'm making is that the response you choose, as I'm teaching you active listening, is not the instinctive response that you feel like choosing. And you're right in the chat, it's hard, it's difficult. That's why it's a skill that has to be learned. Now, imagine you as an adult, if it's difficult for you, imagine how much more difficult it will be for a child who is an apprentice, who just got here and doesn't have as much experience as you, right? So you're right, it is difficult, and you're going to slip up. Thankfully, the requirement to be a good parent is not to be a perfect parent. The requirement to be a good parent is to want to be better, own your mistakes when you make it, and then to do better. In fact, what I usually teach parents is that when a rupture happens, that is the perfect opportunity for repair. There is a stronger and better relationship on the other side of rupture. So it is impossible that there wouldn't be rupture. Do you have the skill to deal with that rupture when it happens? Let me teach you. So once you have that framework at the back of your mind, that I'm not asking you to be passive, I'm not asking you to let inappropriate behavior slide from adults and children. If somebody behaves in a way that is inappropriate, you check it. However, I'm asking you to check it with upstairs brain so that you are able to make a good choice. That part of bringing the upstairs brain back online is a learned skill. Thankfully, I'm really good at teaching it. I'll tell you more about it at the end of the recording, but let's keep it moving. So the question you need to ask yourself when you want to respond, or if you want to be an active listener, is what kind of relationship do I want? And what kind of life do I want? You then choose the response that serves that relationship, not that you're being the bigger person or just watching when people are misbehaving, right? If I have a very hard boundary around disrespect, you're allowed, my general boundary around respect is people are allowed to behave any type of way that they like. It is not my job to control your behavior, so I don't tell people what to do, right? However, I have a hard boundary about disrespect, that if you disrespect me once, you get only one opportunity, right? If you're a random stranger, you just use the opportunity and you lost it. So if you're a random stranger on the internet, you get blocked, right? If you are somebody I care about and we are going to have an ongoing relationship, then I address it. And I have a script I just shared with you. I drop my voice a decibel down, flat affect. I look at you and I say, why do you think it was okay to speak to me like that? I respond with curiosity because that allows you to pause and decide how you want to respond to me. If I escalate, because my goal is to show up in the world as a person that's respected, I reduce the likelihood that you will respect me if I behave in a different manner. So the reason I'm not disrespectful to others is because that's not the way I'm choosing to show up, because they don't deserve it. Have you met people, right? If you choose me, if you see me choose an aggressive response, it is because in that moment I have chosen that that's the response that will serve my end goal. So as I clarify, this isn't about going through life passively. It's about choosing the response that will serve your end goal, and that response comes from your upstairs thinking brain. Okay, so let's work on active listening and do the steps. So RASA is an acronym that Julian Treasure, he has a TED Talk, you can please go look at it. Julian Treasure created this acronym. He also has a book about communication, but he created this really, really simple acronym that helps us when we are listening, to help us active listen better. So the first step is R, you receive, pay attention to the speaker and your body language. People usually say this part is difficult, but let me tell you why I think it is, why I think we all know how to do it. It is because we all know how to receive it, right? You are more likely to be attuned to a person who is paying attention to you as they speak to you, right? So what's the type of person you want to show up in the world as? And do you have the capacity to show up like that? If you don't, how come you expect other people to be able to show up like that as well, right? So you receive, which means that if you care about that relationship and you want to have an enriched life, you pay attention to the speaker and your body language. So you attune, you face them, and you are paying attention, right? If it's a virtual conversation, of course, you know the circumstances will be different, but you get the general idea. Appreciate, you nod. You use non-verbal cues. Okay. Oh, I see. You nod so that the person feels heard. You summarize. This is where so is a very, very, very important hack to have in your repertoire. So you summarize, which is you repeat back what the person has said. So you say, oh, so you're saying that that's what happened, right? That's a reflective tool. I'll take it a step further from this acronym and teach you two kinds of reflection that we use in therapeutic practice. Are you ready to learn that? Let me know, because I feel like I've been talking for a while and I haven't had feedback. Two types of reflection that we use in therapeutic practice. Yes, please. Good. Reflection of content. You might want to write that down so maybe you can research it later, or you can ask me about it. Somebody, if you want to hear more about it, go ask me in the virtual village and I'll do a short explainer video on reflection. Reflection of content and reflection of feeling. Two types of reflection. Remember, reflection is summarizing back what you have heard, right? So let's say my daughter walks in. No, you won't believe what happened to me today. Somebody stole my lunch, right? I'm like, oh, you're saying your lunch was taken by somebody. I reflected the content of her. And knowing my daughter, is highly unlikely that she would have said that one sentence. She would have told me 5 sentences, right? So in reflecting the content, I'm saying, so somebody took your food and you just kept there. Very likely she should say yes, because she just felt heard. I just told her back. The good thing about reflection is that it also gives the opportunity for clarification. She say, no, it's not that I put it there, it's that it was in the front. I was like, oh, okay, so you're saying that your food was in the front office and it disappeared from the front office. Oh, that's reflection of content, what they said to you. The second type of reflection is reflection of feeling. That one is also helpful because it helps you tap into what the person might be experiencing internally that they might not have the words for. And if you're a parent, this part is very useful. You can say, oh, how did that make you feel? Or if the child is younger and they don't have the repertoire yet, you can say, did that make you feel frustrated? Did you feel angry because your toy broke? You are reflecting, which is you are saying back to them what they're communicating to you. Let me know if you want me to go over that again. Reflection of feeling, reflection of content. It is the S in summarize, right? Where you say back. And the easy hack for that is so, right? The final A is to ask questions. You respond with curiosity. By asking questions, you show that you were listening. So you're like, was it the red purse or the blue one? The blue one. Oh, okay, so it was your blue purse. That must have felt really frustrating when that happened to you, right? Okay, I'll take that request and go over it again. Is it possible for the 4 steps to be done over and over? Absolutely. You do it over and over and you can enter at different points. But it's just an idea of RASA, rasa. It's the Sanskrit word for juice. Let me go over RASA again, okay? So let's talk about active listening and the 4 steps. Julian treasured this really brilliant guy who's a communications guru. He wrote this book and we learned this, right? So the steps, RASA, receive, appreciate, and ask. Receive means you pay attention with your whole body language and you get back what is being said to you. Appreciate, you nod, you use non-verbal cues. Okay. Oh, the speaker feels heard, right? Summarize, you reflect. You say back what you have heard. And then I taught you 2 steps in therapeutic practice, two types of reflection. Reflection of feeling, where you speak to how the person might be feeling in the situation, or reflection of content, where you speak back the content of what they've said to you. So you say, oh, you parked your car outside and then you came back and somebody had bashed it, right? You are reflecting what they said. You're summarizing all of the gist that you heard. That step is magical because it makes the other person feel heard. And the next step is ask. You then respond with curiosity, asking questions about what they shared with you. These 4 steps will transform your communication game because you will be a better listener. Like I said before, people want to learn about communication thinking that they're going to learn to be better speakers. And I am teaching you that the way to get better with communication is to be a better listener. Because if the person that you're communicating with feels heard, then you are more likely to connect, right? That's the point of active listening. And we can do a couple of role plays, but I'm worried that we're out of time. However, active listening is just one of the steps in collaborative communication. In the workshop on Saturday that we're going to do a deep dive with a handful of people, you will have a workbook. We will go through all the steps. We'll be able to role play in detail. And more importantly, you will be able to tell me about a unique situation in your life that might be tricky to navigate in a way that we might not be able to do here, because as you can imagine, life gets complex. Because I can already hear the question, but what if the person doesn't listen to? Why am I the only one that is actively communicating? Every time they will be advising me about how to listen, What if the person doesn't talk? And this is my message to you. Peopling is hard. We are human, we are flawed, and we're imperfect, and we're happening to other people as other people are happening to us. Knowing that we're not defective because we have things to work through is very, very helpful. So I encourage you to be kind to yourself as you work on developing new skills and repairing. It is not unusual that you may have tried everything you know how to try and still not having got the results that you want. And I'm encouraging you not to give up hope or lose heart, because you can learn the skills that you need from your own end that can lead to better and improved relationships. It is often the case that when people come to me because they're in a crisis in their lives and they're looking for a solution, that their thinking is that I need to tell them what the other person needs to do or what to do to make the other person do the right thing. And it is usually where we get to sometime in our journey for them to realize that other people's behavior will always be outside of your control. What's within your control is yourself and what you can do about it. And it then becomes your responsibility to start to show up in the world as the version of yourself that you deserve and desire to be, and watch the world around you change. So that's how this works. Nothing I teach you is about how you can make other people do. Other people's behavior will always be outside of our control. So let's do one question that has already been sent in, and then we will take it from there. All right. So question, Coach G, you keep talking about how to actively listen, but what if I'm partnered with a person who just simply refuses to hear me? Now, this is a really good question, because not only is it very common, it is also very honest of you, to ask. And the reality is that not everybody is going to be at the exact same spot on their journey as you are, as you try to improve your life. It then becomes your responsibility to focus on what you can change, what you want to do better as you work towards the life that you want. The good thing about changing your life is that it doesn't require you transforming tomorrow into a completely new person. It requires you to make small changes today that can get you closer to the destination that you want to get. So the question is, what's the outcome that you want? And what is the choice that is going to help you get there? Changing your thinking from that's what those people need to do so that I can be okay, to what's the outcome that I want and what can I do to get me there? It's a small shift that can change the way you think about your life as you work towards the better version of yourself that you desire and deserve to be. All right, so thank you so much for attending this session. I'm glad that you were able to attend. We don't have enough time. I would have been able to take so many more questions, but I'll take a couple more if you go ahead and use the link like we asked you to. If you want to attend the next Ask Coach G Live, now is a really, really good time to register. Remember, we do one on the first Saturday of every month. Scan the QR code, use the link, go ahead and register. You will get a confirmation email, and you'll get reminders, and you can save your seat. Where can you find other resources? On tangledtogether.com, you'll find all the information that you need there. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/untangledtogether. You know our socials, we're on Twitter and IG. So you can also join the virtual village, and you'll find us there. It's my pleasure to bring you the resources and to use my expertise to help you get to the life that you want to get to. And I'm so glad you were able to attend today. And I will see you on the next episode. Thank you.